Hi, ladies and gents, welcome back to the Belgian Chess Championship. Today we're covering the game of round 2, and trust me, it did not disappoint. So buckle up, because our 14-year-old prodigy, Elias Ruzanski, just played another masterpiece. Today's game features the Alekhine defense, made famous by Alexander Alekhine. I'm sure Aliak and Alexander thought, since they share the same name, or basically the same name, it would be a good idea to use the opening today. Stay till the end to find out if it did or didn't. The opening starts with e4, knight f6, where black attacks the center right away, hoping to lure in white pawns and then strike back later. So we see e5, the knight is being pushed away. We see c4, the knight is being pushed away again. And now when the knight is on b6, then we just grab the center completely with d4. White basically has a monster center here. We see d6, e takes d6, and e takes d6, h3, bishop e7, and now a knight f3. So far there have been 7 moves and they have all been complete theory. Now Elias is completely on his own preparation again. First we see bishop f5, normal developing move, followed by bishop e2, castle, castle. He develops the bishop a little bit more. We see knight c3 and now knight c6. Now the engine would have preferred to just develop the bishop to f4, calm developing move, but Elias decides to go full aggressive and starts by pushing d5. I'm sure he thought it was justified, because after the knight goes to b4, he's going to kick it away immediately, and it's still definitely okay. Just the engine preferred f4 first, just opening principles. Of course, you don't always have to respect them if you're at this level. So d5 was played, knight b4, now a3, kicking away that knight again. And now if you were considering a move like knight c2, just like I was, it's actually a mistake, because the rook can go to a2, and then this knight right here is basically completely trapped. You cannot save it anymore. So first we play bishop d3, and then once they try to escape with the knight, that's when we first take here, and then after they retake, we take and are up a full bishop. Now what happens if we bring back the bishop to safety first? Exactly the same thing, just a little bit slower. We start by pushing h4, they try to stay on this diagonal, defending the knight. We kick the bishop away still. Now bishop d3, and now when the knight moves back, we take with check on h7, and now we have 2 attackers and 1 defender. Therefore this is also a free piece, and now we're still up a complete bishop. For that reason, black decided to take on c3 first. Obviously we retake, and even though we have a slight weakness here with the double pawns, it's completely justified by the fact that it's controlling a lot of important squares where the knight wants to go. So the knight goes back. Elias played knight d4, attacking that bishop. Elias is trying to sacrifice the knight for the bishop and getting another bishop versus knights endgame, like we saw in last episode. If you didn't, go check it out now. Link is in the bio and it will pop up here on screen. The bishop goes back, and now white has to come up with a plan. Elias decided to push a5, which is a great move, just targeting these knights again. Notice how it's the 15th move and they have been moved around 6 times already. So basically that means black is playing with his knights a lot. Here Alexander makes a slight error. He plays queen to e8 with the idea that once you push, you can put the knight on a4, as he did in the game. However, the computer thinks it's a slight inaccuracy, because he actually found a really creative solution for this. It starts by bringing the knight to c5, then once they push a5, then you play bishop a4, danger levels. Notice how the queen is under attack, so you cannot take here, or well, you can, but you would end up losing the queen. Therefore, when the queen moves, you buy yourself the time to play knight back to d7, and here I think black is totally fine. Actually, we have very active pieces, and yeah, in general I think this is a very good position for black as well. Unfortunately, he didn't find this. He played queen to e8. We see a5, and now the knight moves in on a4. Developing move for the queen. Goes back to c5, controlling more of the center, so very good move. You see bishop f3, just developing the bishop a little bit more. Queen e5, black is also developing his pieces. Bishop d2, queen f6, king h2, and now h6. And this is interesting position, because it's not so clear to me what to do, and this is mostly where I mess up myself. For example, first thing I would probably play is rook b1, and there's nothing wrong with rook b1. It just, I'm not capable of finding the best move here, and the best move was g3, just providing some extra space and opening the diagonal for your bishop some more. Very nice find. The queen goes to g6. Basically, Aliakin Alexander is saying here that he wants to trade queens and open up his rooks, which is exactly what happens in the game as well. Here the king goes back to defend the bishop on f3, rook a to e8. Basically black is saying that he wants to fight for this open line. Of course white does not allow that for free, so Elias is putting up a fight. Bishop f5, getting the bishop to a better square. Finally we see knight takes f5, and again we have the bishop versus knight endgame. Very interesting, but of course Elias shows us yesterday that he masters this really well, and he proves that today. So basically now black has the open file, and Elias decides to shut it down with bishop e3. We see g5, and this is considered a mistake as well, and Elias is to show is exactly why. He starts off by putting the rook on a better square, mainly b1, attacking the half open line and attacking the b7 pawn. Of course, it's still defended by the knight, but this does make sure that the knights are forced to stay in place. For example, if the knight were to reroute to the center, we could exchange our bishop for that knight, and notice how the defender of this b7 square is now gone. And after we take, remember guys, the rook is always strongest on the 7th rank. This is basically GG, and white would have a very easy win here. We see king to g7, followed by bishop to h5, rook to e4, and now we give a little check on d4 first. This is where Alexander Alekhine messed up big time, because the goal of this king right now is to just defend g6. If he were to go here, everything would still be okay, considering he's still covering this from happening. However, unfortunately, he decided to go to f8 and thus giving the bishop the g6 square. We see b6, bishop takes f5, rook e7, and now bishop g6. Black tries to improve the knight and bring it back to the center, but now we see the exchange on b6, another exchange, rook to a1, attacking the undefended knight, forcing the knight to go back to defend it, and now bishop f6, attacking the rook. Notice how these bishops are actually monsters. They're very strong. The rook goes to c7, and this is where Alekhine Alexander decides to give up, because it's basically unstoppable. If you bring back the rook to go to the last rank, rook e7 is coming, and yeah, it's just deadly at this point. Elias traded off pieces perfectly, used these bishops to dominate the board completely, and eventually forced resignation. It's a masterclass in converting a small advantage into a full point. This was absolutely my pick for game of the round 2. If you've seen other games from this round and liked them more, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for more Belgian Chess Championship action. Happy chess out!